In humans, the kidneys are located high in the abdominal cavity, one on each side of the spine, and lie in a retroperitoneal position at a slightly oblique angle. The asymmetry within the abdominal cavity, caused by the position of the liver, typically results in the right kidney being slightly lower and smaller than the left, and being placed slightly more to the middle than the left kidney. The left kidney is approximately at the vertebral level T12 to L3, and the right is slightly lower. The right kidney sits just below the diaphragm and posterior to the liver. The left sits below the diaphragm and posterior to the spleen. On top of each kidney is an adrenal gland. The upper parts of the kidneys are partially protected by the 11th and 12th ribs. Each kidney, with its adrenal gland, is surrounded by two layers of fat, the perirenal fat present between renal fascia and renal capsule, and pararenal fat superior to the renal fascia. 1. Renal pyramid. 2. Interlobular artery. 3. Renal artery. 4. Renal vein. 5. Renal hilum. 6. Renal pelvis. 7. Ureter. 8. Minor calyx. 9. Renal capsule. 10. Inferior renal capsule. 11. Superior renal capsule. 12. Interlobular vein. 13. Nephron. 14. Renal sinus. 15. Major calyx. 16. Renal papilla. 17. Renal column. CT scan of the kidneys. Left, cross-section at upper abdomen level. The liver is seen on the left side of scan, right side of body. Center, longitudinal section. Though the center of the kidneys, the liver partially covers the right kidney. Right, transverse section through the left kidney. The kidney is a bean-shaped structure with a convex and a concave border. A recessed area on the concave border is the renal hilum, where the renal artery enters the kidney and the renal vein and ureter leave. The kidney is surrounded by tough fibrous tissue, the renal capsule, which is itself surrounded by perirenal fat, renal fascia, and pararenal fat. The anterior, front, surface of these tissues is the peritoneum, while the posterior, rear, surface is the transversalis fascia. The superior pole of the right kidney is adjacent to the liver. For the left kidney, it is next to the spleen. Both, therefore, move down upon inhalation. In adult males, the kidney weighs between 125 and 170 grams. In females, the weight of the kidney is between 115 and 155 grams. A Danish study measured the median renal length to be 11.2 centimeters, 4.4 in, on the left side and 10.9 centimeters, 4.3 in, on the right side in adults. Median renal volumes were 146 cubic centimeters on the left and 134 cubic centimeters on the right. The substance, or parenchyma, of the kidney is divided into two major structures, the outer renal cortex and the inner renal medulla. Grossly, these structures take the shape of 8 to 18 cone-shaped renal lobes, each containing renal cortex surrounding a portion of medulla called a renal pyramid. Between the renal pyramids are projections of cortex called renal columns. Nephrons, the urine-producing functional structures of the kidney, span the cortex and medulla. The initial filtering portion of a nephron is the renal corpuscle, which is located in the cortex. This is followed by a renal tubule that passes from the cortex deep into the medullary pyramids. Part of the renal cortex, A medullary ray is a collection of renal tubules that drain into a single collecting duct. The tip, or papilla, of each pyramid empties urine into a minor calyx, minor calyces empty into major calyces, and major calyces empty into the renal pelvis. This becomes the ureter. At the hilum, the ureter and renal vein exit the kidney and the renal artery enters. Hilar fat and lymphatic tissue with lymph nodes surrounds these structures. The hilar fat is contiguous with a fat-filled cavity called the renal sinus. The renal sinus collectively contains the renal pelvis and calyces and separates these structures from the renal medullary tissue. The kidneys possess no overtly moving structures.